The Kansas City Chiefs have beaten the Los Angeles Chargers and have taken the AFC West divisional crown for the 9th consecutive season. I've got 10 talking points for this game, and they start right here. What more could you ask for? What more could you possibly want? What more do you want from these Kansas City Chiefs? This is, after all, the most Kansas City Chiefs win that we have seen in quite some time. Come out early, swinging, get out to a 13-0 lead. Look, maybe not as good as could be expected, maybe not as good as one might hope, but a 13-0 halftime lead, guys, that's about all you can ask for. And then have one disastrous quarter and lose the lead. One absolutely monstrous quarter and kiss all of that goodbye. And then win with a single second left on the clock. What a Kansas City Chiefs way to do this. Now, this is different than early in the Patrick Mahomes tenure where the Chiefs would go down big early and then just all of a sudden you look up and they're winning. This is different than that for sure. I'm not sure which is worse, but golly, it sure would be nice to just have a nice, decent season once in a while, wouldn't it, guys? Wouldn't it be nice to have a team that had an identity that was just, hey, we're going to lead this game from pillar to post? Oh, well. They're 12-1. They have won the AFC West for the 9th consecutive season. This is second only to New England as far as consecutive divisional crowns for a single team. And here we are, Monday morning, complaining about it anyway. Well, there's no reason to really tamper things down. We were complaining about it last night. We don't like the way this team wins. We dislike the way that this team wins so badly that we refuse to give them credit for winning. Still, they're winning. Here is a question that leads right into the number 2 talking point here. This was playoffs football. This was a playoff football game. So here's my question to you. Everybody is stressed out. Nobody is happy with that win. You go on social media and everybody's having a meltdown every second that the clock ticks down. Okay, fine. I get it. I'm right there with you. But here's what I'll ask. That was December 8th. That was the end-ish of the regular season. Were that the divisional round, would you feel different about that win? I dare say you would. Maybe not. But if not, it's only because we've become so spoiled here. Teams don't win playoff games the way that the Kansas City Chiefs have been winning playoff games. Patrick Mahomes has more postseason wins than Peyton Manning. I mean, just think about that. Peyton Manning had fewer postseason wins in his entire career. The entire time that you were watching Peyton Manning, think back to 1998, where were you then? Peyton Manning's rookie season where he threw 14 interceptions, wasn't it? From then until he rode off into the sunset with the Broncos. That entire time, Peyton Manning had fewer postseason wins than Patrick Mahomes already in his career. Teams don't win postseason games like the Kansas City Chiefs have been winning postseason games. Pretend the Kansas City Chiefs wrap up the 1 seed. And in the opening round of the playoffs, the wild card round, it's the Bills versus the Chargers. Oh, the Chargers pull the upset. The divisional round of the playoffs, the Chargers come to Kansas City, and the Kansas City Chiefs win 19-17. The Chargers are a playoffs team. Right now, if the playoffs started today, the Chargers would be in the playoffs. So if this win happened just a few weeks later, it would look much different. It would feel much different. It would seem much different. Still, it would be the same two teams. Now, they did not have J.K. Dobbins. They did not have Ladd McConkey. No one was making that excuse for teams when the Kansas City Chiefs were beating them without Isaiah Pacheco and Rashee Rice. Nobody was making that excuse for the other team. This is the NFL. You will not be at 100%. No one will be, especially by the time the playoffs come around. No one's going to have all of their players. So while, yes, it would have been a different game, congrats. It would have been a different game had the Kansas City Chiefs had all sorts of players still this season as well. The Kansas City Chiefs are on their 19th kicker and their 5th tight end. Baylor Cupp, UDFA out of Texas Tech, who dropped his first NFL pass. Nobody makes that excuse for the Kansas City Chiefs. The number 3 thing that I have here to talk about is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes went 24 of 37, 210 yards, a touchdown, and 0 interceptions. 8 players with receptions, 9 players were targeted. We already talked about Baylor Cupp. He also carried the ball 4 times for 17 yards. This isn't classic Patrick Mahomes. You don't want Patrick Mahomes to be throwing for 210 yards and a touchdown. You want Patrick Mahomes because you like to rev the engine and you want to see 425 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. It'd be nice. Patrick Mahomes has said football has gotten a little bit boring. Playing all these check downs and all of these hampered offenses that he's thrown the ball for the past few seasons. He sure does look like he's having an awful lot of fun at those ring ceremonies. That's all I'll say about that. The line, the next thing to talk about here, the offensive line. Gave up 3 sacks. Now, if you had gone to Andy Reid on Saturday night and said, you get to choose 3 sacks or mystery, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, 3 sacks or mystery, he's taking the 3 sacks. I guarantee it. Gave up a lot of pressures though. I'm not making any excuses. I am not saying it was a great game for the offensive line, but I do think that in playoff football territory, if you were to take 3, if you were offered the option before the game, 3 sacks or mystery box, you take 3 sacks. The Bosa sack, yes, he was lined up against Humphreys. No, I would not put that on DJ Humphreys. What happened on that sack is DJ Humphreys went into his pass set, and it was good enough. So if you go back and watch the play, Bosa does not particularly engage him. He's just kind of shadowing him. Bosa sets his plant step at the exact same time that Mahomes starts to take off, and this gives him the edge to go back towards the line of scrimmage, which, I mean, by the way, in a pass set, your offensive tackle is not going to be chasing a defensive end towards the line of scrimmage. But he planted Mahomes. Mahomes took off at the exact moment Bosa's plant foot set, and he got there at Mahomes right at the line of scrimmage. Like, that's just a football play. I would not put that on a tackle. I would not put that on DJ Humphreys. It just kind of is one of those things that happens in the course of a football play. Mahomes wasn't exactly where he probably should have been or was expected to be, and It cost him just a couple yards, but it cost him. The offensive line, it was a weird game for the offensive line because it was not a good game, but there's no real glaring things to point to. DJ Humphries did not look good. DJ Humphries had ring rust through the entire game. I'm not saying he looked great, but it was one of those things where everybody just kind of sucked a little bit. So, I mean, hopefully the left tackle position gets shored up a little bit by DJ Humphries coming along. Hopefully he does have just a few weeks of juice in his legs. If that happens, then the Chiefs are going to be very difficult to beat in the playoffs. But the number 5 thing to talk about here is this. Xavier Worthy is becoming much more active. Xavier Worthy is becoming much more counted on. Xavier Worthy played 57 snaps. I believe that was the most of all of the wide receivers. 5 receptions, 41 yards, 1 carry, 5 yards. That's 6 total touches, 46 yards. And you'll notice, now I don't have the exact numbers to back this up. Perhaps I am mistaken. But it seems as if Xavier Worthy is going in motion a whole lot more lately. Well, that's going to pay off. Why is that going to pay off? Well, it causes all sorts of havoc for the defense until the snap of the ball. You got the fastest guy in the league crossing the center's backside, and now he's someone else's responsibility. Well, whose is it? Is it yours? You better figure it out, because that's a 4.21 40 coming your way very quick. So there's that. Then there's the fact that if you notice, he fakes the handoff most of the time that he passes back there. Eventually, he's going to get a couple handoffs right as teams are starting to stop paying attention to him. And then, so we saw that week 1. We saw that week 1 in the NFL where all of a sudden the Chiefs have a guy with that kind of speed. Well, he can just take off. Take a handoff, cut up field. All of a sudden, it's a touchdown. And everybody in the NFL was on notice. Well, he hasn't had a whole lot of carries lately. So that sort of faded away. Maybe the Kansas City Chiefs will face their old friends, the Ravens, in the playoffs. And they'll have an Xavier Worthy for them. But what it does, having someone who is that versatile, Juju Smith-Schuster goes in motion behind the line. No one's concerned about him taking a handoff, right? It's just, you're not concerned about it. Xavier Worthy, that 4.21 speed, he dashed up, carved up, diced up the Ravens week 1. The entire league was worried about it. Maybe they're getting lulled to sleep, in which case, all of a sudden, Andy Reid's going to have a read on that. And then he gets to dice up some other defense. Or, if they are paying attention to it, if they are ready for it, they'd better know it could come. They'd better know that it's just around the corner. In which case, they're going to be creeping towards the line. In which case, that 4.21 speed gets behind them real fast. So that's all the motion that we're seeing from Worthy. All of the added attention on Xavier Worthy pre-snap. That's all going to pay off. That's what Andy Reid does during the course of a season. He builds a playbook. As far as the defense is concerned, the defense had one bad quarter. Honestly, the defense gave up 14 points in the third quarter, 2 touchdown drives, real fast, too. Oh, man, those were bad drives. Terrible drives. Awful. Guys, they scored 17 points. You can't ask for much better than that in the NFL. The Chargers don't have the most explosive offense. I'm not making that point. They've won an awful lot of games, and they've scored a whole bunch of points in some of them. So I do not know. Having looked over their schedule a few times in the last few days, they might have a higher points per game average than the Kansas City Chiefs. So there is that. The Kansas City Chiefs had 5 scoring drives. They yielded only 3, right? So that's one way to think of things. The Kansas City Chiefs had 3 scoring drives go against them. All the times that the Chargers touched the ball, 3 times they got points out of it. Now, we have to talk about it. Remigio. Like Rufio, Hook, right? Nobody knows what I'm talking about probably. That's fine. I'll be the weirdo. Nico Remigio finally found his way onto an NFL field during the regular season. 0 offensive snaps, a little disappointing, but Mecole Hardman is on IR. So the Chiefs are going to have to do something at wide receiver. I think this could be a 3, 4, 5 game audition for Nico Remigio for the Kansas City Chiefs next season, because the Chiefs are going to have some things to figure out at the wide receiver position. On kickoff returns, he ended up going 2 for 52 yards. Not bad work. Punt returns 3 for 34 yards. Neither is that bad work. Better work than was put in by Kadarius Toney this past weekend. If you know, you know. I won't gloat over Kadarius Toney's misfortunes against the Browns, or for the Browns. But Nico Remigio, I think, proved himself as an adequate weapon with the ball in his hand on the special teams. I think it's only a matter of time before we start to see him out there for some offensive plays. It was a surprise to me that he was on the active roster, did do the special team stuff, and still didn't have offensive reps. Maybe that's by design. Maybe they were trying not to overwhelm him. It's possible, I guess. But he's been with the team for a long time, and he's put in an awful lot of preseason work. So hopefully we see a little bit more from Nico Remigio going forward. Here's a question that I have. Do the running backs look better? And I don't just mean they got Pop back. Of course they look better. I mean, does this trio of running backs look better, all of them, than any of them looked individually or in tandem? Maybe I'm making it up. But this group, Isaiah Pacheco, 14 for 55, 3.9 yard average, 2 receptions, 6 yards. Kareem Hunt, 5 for 16 yards, 3.2 yard average, 1 reception, 13 yards. Not a big day rushing for Kareem Hunt. Not a great day on the average for Kareem Hunt. But adding that reception sure does add some sizzle to the pop. And then Perine, one carry for 3 yards, obviously a 3-yard average, and then a reception for 16 yards. I think with the 3 of them all on the field, they look better than any combination of the 2 of them. It is perplexing to me. I don't know why that would work that way, but it seems like maybe it's just the reps. We saw with George Karlaftis, his rookie year, sort of like Rashee Rice, it was the back half of his rookie year, he started to come on. He started to do some more things. He started to get more tackles, started to get more sacks, things like that. For George Karlaftis in his rookie season, it was actually a matter of his snaps being cut. Early in the season, he was playing 95% of the defensive snaps, and I guess he was tired. Later in the season, he was playing a lower percentage, 70s, 80s, and he was much more effective. I wonder if that's what it is for this group of running backs. Almost definitely it is for Kareem Hunt. The number 9 thing I have to talk about here, I'm not going to say that the team looked flat. But the team looked flat. The team, maybe flat's not fair. Certainly discombobulated. Certainly unorganized. Certainly disjointed. I wonder, so we started to see this last year as well. every season with Patrick Mahomes, we've seen a little bit of this. And, it wasn't that way with Alex Smith. With Alex Smith, they might not have been as explosive. They might not have been as capable, but the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. But guys, that's kind of because they had to be that way. They could not afford to come out and take chances. They could not afford to have deficiencies like this team has at the left tackle position. They could not afford to have the deficiencies that this team had for a while at the wide receiver position. I think things are getting better at wide receiver. The Alex Smith-led Kansas City Chiefs could not do that. We've talked about this a few times on the channel now. The Chiefs aren't still supposed to be good. The Chiefs are supposed to be getting recycled through the middle-ish of the pack. They've got a franchise quarterback, so it's unlikely they ever pass through the bottom half of the league as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy. But teams don't stay on top this long. They just don't. Teams do not stay on top this long. They're supposed to be cycling back through the middle of the league. They're supposed to be picking 15th overall this season. They're supposed to be picking 16th and getting a tackle. They're supposed to be picking, what would that be, 47th in the second round and getting a wide receiver there. That's what they're supposed to be doing. That's what they were supposed to do last season. Guys, it's probably what they were supposed to do the season before that. It's what they were supposed to do the season they lost Tyreek Hill. But they're not doing it because so many things are working out for them, and Patrick Mahomes can cover up everything that doesn't. So they look flat, they look discombobulated. That might just be a factor of they have to figure things out. They have the talent. So in boxing, there's a term for a guy with a great big hand, right? If you have knockout power, it's called an eraser. Doesn't matter what other mistakes you made in that ring, bop. I can erase it all with one swing. That's Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs have the biggest eraser in the NFL. And they're not supposed to still be winning. So maybe part of the discombobulation that we see is that the Chiefs just have to figure things out on Sundays. We've talked about it before. They just have to figure things out on Sundays. If they don't, if they can't, they're never going to. They need that extra time because they do have more deficiencies than your normal 12-1 team. Here's the last thing I want to talk about. It's a 17-game schedule. It's an 18-week affair. The Kansas City Chiefs just played their 13th game. They have one regular season objective left. They want the 1 seed. Of course they want the 1 seed. They want the bye week that comes with it. They want the home field advantage that comes with it. They have one regular season goal left to go. They made the playoffs. They made the playoffs in week 13. They won the division in week 14. Games 12 and 13. All that's done. All that's the wayside. All that's done and wrapped. That's under the Christmas tree, baby. They have one objective left. They need any combination of 3 wins as the Chiefs and or losses from the Bills and the Steelers. Next week, the Bills play the Lions and the Steelers play the Eagles. That's rough. Should the Kansas City Chiefs win versus the Browns and those teams lose versus the Lions and the Eagles, the math gets real short real quick. The math gets real short real quick. They have one objective left. They are 12-1. Guys, this team might lose more games without Patrick Mahomes under center than the rest of the season. It's possible. It's very possible that this team ends up having not just the bye week in the first week of the playoffs, not just the annual bye week at the end of the season for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think they could afford what it would mean to take off 2 weeks at the end of the season. It's possible, just mathematically, should they beat so they play the Steelers, right? So that could be 2 right there. Beat the Browns, and things get real simple, real quick for these Kansas City Chiefs. Now, they have a very convoluted schedule to end the season. That's true. But if anybody is good at working off schedule, it's Patrick Mahomes. That's all I have for this video. It's possible that I will be back tonight with another one. I am not 100% sure. There is some news circulating, some rumors circulating around Arrowhead that I might chime in on. But anyway, if you like or appreciate this sort of thing, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for more Kansas City Chiefs videos in the future. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.